Hi, this is Eric Stoller for the Eric Stoller Show and the Man on a Mission series. I'm here today with Sam Tejada, the founder, CEO of Liquivita. Sam, thank you for being here at the Eric Stoller Show at Studio 111 in beautiful Hollywood, Florida. I'm excited to have you on because you are, you know, not only building a phenomenal business in the space, you're really making strides. And we just talked about your Instagram, your YouTube. Congratulations, over 100,000 subscribers, and just talking with all the biggest names in the world of wellness. Right? I'd say people we know. But before we get into all that, I want to know about you. I want to about like Sam before he became Sam, CEO, Liquivita, rock star, traveling all over. We were flying in to see you. So I want to know about that, Sam, first, before we get into like Sam, the businessman, and all the success you're having.
Absolutely. Eric, it's a pleasure to be here, man. Growing up, I would always tell my parents, like, one day I want to go to Hollywood. And here I am in Hollywood.
That's right. You're in Hollywood.
So thank you for having me here on your show.
My pleasure.
So
I'm honored to have you here.
Yeah. And a little bit about myself, so the viewers and listeners can understand who Sam Tejada truly is. So I was born in Dominican Republic. I'm an immigrant from Dominican Republic, youngest out of 4 kids.
Okay.
And when we migrated here to the United States, we went to Milwaukee, Wisconsin. So
wow.
Most people ask, is like, Dominican in Wisconsin, how? I asked the same question.
No bueno.
Exactly. So, but yeah, so I grew up in the inner city of Milwaukee,
okay,
on the north side. So primarily African-American is what I grew up around. Education system, fantastic in Wisconsin. It was senior year in high school that my parents decided to relocate business, and we moved down to South Florida.
Okay.
So, which was a little bit difficult. Senior year in high school, you got all your friends and stuff.
Yeah,
but
sure.
That decision was a decision that really changed my life, right? It allowed me to really start zoning in and focusing on what I'm going to do for a living, career-wise. So I was a lifeguard and swim instructor up north. I worked for the YMCA in Milwaukee.
Okay.
And I transferred over to the Boca YMCA. And as I was lifeguarding, that's when I kind of learned about different other opportunities for lifeguarding, which I did ocean rescue. And then I started kind of thinking my senior year in high school, like, what am I going to do? I always wanted to be an ER doctor, but C average student, that wasn't going to happen. So then I found out about the opportunity of becoming a firefighter paramedic.
Okay.
And, up north, a lot of those type of positions as firefighters, paramedics, they're all volunteer. So I never really considered it, living up north. But here in South Florida, it was a career job with a full-blown salary, benefits, pension, the whole 9 yards.
Right, sure, serious.
Where I was already doing the lifeguarding stuff, saving lives. I said, man, I like that. I'm doing a little bit of the fire stuff, the medical stuff. You work, 24 hours on, you're off for 48 hours. You can do something else. You're off all these days. You got a great pension. You only got to put 20 years in, and then you get paid for the rest of your life. So I said, you know what? I want to do that. So not too many people in high school know exactly what they want to do for a career.
Not trying to figure. Some people in college. I got friends
Right.
that are out of college and they're out of law school, and they're 30 years. And they still can't figure out what they want
Yeah,
to do.
exactly. So
at 18, you're 18.
I'm 18, and so right after high school, go straight into EMT school, go to paramedic school, go to fire academy, and I become a certified firefighter paramedic by the age of 19 and a half.
Wow.
By age 20, I get picked up by Oakland Park Fire Rescue. So I'm the youngest firefighter in the entire department, right? We go to union meetings. I can't even have a beer with the guys because I'm not even 21. So that's where my career started. And like most firemen, on their days off, they have some kind of side hustle. Some guys have landscaping companies. Other guys do pressure cleaning. I decided to go into the wellness, the wellness space. And I started working with a doctor, Dr. Robert Willix. Dr. Willix was a heart surgeon who got fed up with heart surgery because he wanted to prevent patients from going on the operating table. So he was with a company as a chief medical officer called Cenegenics. So Cenegenics, they were one of the pioneers in alternative medicine. They were big in the TRT, doing growth hormone injections, et cetera. And they were catered to some of the wealthiest people on this globe. So what I was doing on my days off from the fire department, I was the guy drawing their blood. I'd go to these huge multi-million-dollar homes We had about 350 patients here in South Florida. So every 3 months, I'd go to these huge, beautiful multi-million-dollar homes, and I'd go draw their blood. But I also started doing something that Dr. Willix needed because he was going head-to-head against the FDA about the growth hormone injections. And I was the one who started doing a test called glucagon stimulation test. So the glucagon stimulation test is a 6-hour test that we would do on these patients.
Okay.
And it basically would diagnose if they were growth hormone deficient. So we had people flying in from all over the place. And, Eric, what ended up happening, man, I just started growing a passion behind all this wellness.
Yeah, sure.
The way Dr. Willix was practicing medicine, which was a little bit different, right? And I started seeing his patients, these people who could afford Dr. Willix, which his prices were not cheap. I mean, people would pay tens of thousands of dollars per year. And, they were changing their lives. So at the same time, mind you, I'm working in the fire department in emergency medicine. So I'm starting to notice, when you work in a municipality, you're part of that community. Where if I go to the grocery store, people know me. Hey, there goes Fireman Sam. The same way they get to know me, I get to know them. So I get to know them from the first time they call 911 for that shortness of breath, chest pain, whatever it is that they're having. And I'm the one who transports them to the hospital.
Now, are you taking the call and transporting?
So we get the call from the dispatcher, and then we respond, and then we transport them to the hospital. But what I ended up seeing is you get that initial 911 call, right? Then 6 months later, you get called out again. And then all of a sudden, it becomes every other month, this person's calling 911.
Right.
Then it becomes every month, then every other week, then every single week, then every other day. And you're part of that journey from the start until the day they die.
Yeah.
Right? Because we get called out when they go into cardiac arrest. So I just started seeing it over and over and over. And I'm not talking about one or two people. I'm talking about thousands of people, right? Over a 12-year period of time where I'm seeing this happen where people's health are just like literally circling down the drain. But then on the other side, on my days off, when I go to Dr. Willix, I'm seeing this guy change people's lives the way he practices medicine. And that's where I said, I was like about 6 years in when I started Liquivita. And once I started Liquivita and I started really seeing what we were doing, changing people's lives for the good, increasing health span and longevity, I said, you know what? I've been a product to the broken medical system, working in emergency medicine as a firefighter paramedic. I can no longer do that. That is not my God-given purpose. My God-given purpose is going this route in medicine and truly helping people.
Yeah, and you saying that, it's interesting because those people that you get in the calls from, what are they doing?
Right.
What are the doctor telling them? My aunt died because it turned out she had gallbladder stones, right? The doctors weren't talking to each other, and they operated on her, and she went into a coma. A 77-year-old woman probably could have, found an answer. So it's very exciting because, being somebody that's in the wellness field and working with people that move the needle. And I think that's the thing that when we talk to people that, you're used to Western medicine and you take a pill and you say, oh, how do they do? Well, not too hot. They get worse and worse and worse and worse. Like I remember my neighbor when I grew up, and this gentleman had cancer. I was a very young kid. Then he was a vibrant man, and you were watching him. I wonder if back then he was given a stem cell, what would have been his longevity of his life. But who would have known?
Right.
My mom has Alzheimer's right now, and people like I work with say, hey, we can do stuff, but like true binding, but she's too far along potentially, right? What is she? I don't really know. So I want to bring this to ask you the question of, so in doing this, what were the biggest things like that you found like with these people that caused them not to make a change? Like you go on and you keep seeing the same people. I'm assuming that you're giving them advice or saying, hey, what are you doing? Especially you've seen me every day. Like, Eric, what's going on? What, like you're like, I keep coming here. Is it because you're lonely?
Yeah, the advice. It's hard to give someone advice when you have someone else with a white coat giving them the wrong advice.
Well, that's true, right? Right.
And I don't want to take anything away from the conventional, traditional medicine, because at the end of the day, it has saved a lot of lives.
Yes.
But one thing I'll say, it's a fucked up system, right? Because what's happening, you mentioned this earlier, doctors are not communicating amongst each other.
That's correct.
Right? Yeah. So you get the patient, ends up going to the ER, gets prescribed all these medications, their general practitioner is prescribing all kinds of other medications that go against each other, right? So there's a lack in communication between all of the different medical providers. People are being overdosed on certain medications, etc., and then their health just starts to trickle down the drain. But the thing is that we live in such a sick care system where everything's reactive medicine. We wait until the person starts having more issues to just treat those
Correct.
with a medication that's just going to control the signs and symptoms, right? It's not even focused on the root cause. So all these patients that I'm talking about, they're not being advised on lifestyle. They're not being advised on proper health habits, right? They're eating junk, all of the ultra processed food that's full of toxins. So of course their health is just going to continue to trickle down the drain.
And I've been eating clean, right? Because of taking what have you, the different biologics, and changing my diet. And then once in a while I go off the reservation. I think yesterday I had like a lemonade and some bread, and right away my body's like, oh my god. But then I started thinking about what you just said. If your body is so used to these, processed foods. I remember one day I walked into Target, right? I usually go into Whole Foods, even if it's more money. I'm like, okay, the food's clean.
Right.
And I went into Target and I'm like, wow. I'm like, what's for even the chicken or anything? It just goes to show you those little slight things. So people don't even know, right? You're getting heart attacks and diabetes, and we know like a lot, especially in the African American communities, they're eating bad food and the McDonald's, and everybody's trying to eat healthy. But at the end of the day, it's pretty simple if you think about it to fix the problem. And what you said about Western medicine, listen, my cardiologist, I had a heart attack at 46.
Wow.
And you saw that picture. So imagine I went through a cycle of losing all that weight, and then I'm back there. He sees me now. He took me off of 90% of my medication.
Amazing.
So what changed it? Because I took control of my own life, and and I'm a believer, right? Like you, I'm a believer because I'm seeing like friends like my buddy Mike, right? He causes miracles. I know for me, even myself, I'm like, wow, I can't believe the energy I have. And I turned 59, and I'm 20 years older than you. My son is the same age as you.
Right.
So I go like, wow, I have people my age go, I'm old. I'm guys 40 going, I feel old. I go, if you're old, we got to have a real conversation.
For real.
Because Peter Monitz is on the other end going, listen, hang on a couple more years. I'm going to show you how to live to 150. Right. You go, wow. So let's talk about really, because what you do, especially with the IVs, I'm a complete believer in IVs. I'm a complete believer that people that are sitting there telling you like, look, I'm going to do a little bit of intermittent fasting. I got it under control. Your body is not, my body at 58 is not the same body at 38, nor is it 18, right?
Right. So
I like to say better living through chemistry. And it's not always chemistry, right? Because you're talking vitamin, but straight IVs. And I'm a believer, whether it's for a hangover, but I don't drink anymore, just feeling better. Even like after I had my surgery, like, wow, like the healing process.
Absolutely.
So I want you, we're going to get into the company, but I want you to talk a little bit about like what you did with the doc and how you kind of got attracted to doing the IV work, because I think IVs to me are so powerful and people don't even realize it.
Yeah. So Eric, when we talk about functional medicine or biohacking, a lot of people, they tend to get scared because they look at it and they say it's expensive, right?
Right.
But the first step, the things that I'm going to talk about right now, it's completely free. Right. Okay. And this is when I was working at the fire department, one of the biggest things that was lacking is education. And you would actually notice, I worked in the inner city as a fireman. So there was a lot of Black and brown community.
Yes.
And they were just not given that education on how to be healthy, right?
Yes.
Versus other geographical locations that I would have access to through Dr. Willicks, right? Families would teach their kids on how to eat healthy, how to do certain things to be healthy. So the three things that I'm going to mention right now are three things that are completely free, right? That are extremely important to your health. Nutrition. You got to know what you're fueling your body with. Exercise, which is movement, and then sleep. These three things, if you actually focus on these three things, you will change the trajectory of your health. So Dr. Willicks was really big on the nutrition side. He said, If you're going to go ahead and start trying to be healthy, start off by eliminating 5 things out of your diet.
Okay.
All right. Rice, potato, bread, pasta, and alcohol. Just those 5. Eliminate those 5 things, remove them for 90 days. I guarantee you, number 1, you're going to lose weight. Number 2, you're going to be very energetic, and you're going to get good sleep. So start off with those. When it comes to exercise, I don't even like using the word exercise. Movement, right? If you like to garden, go out and garden for 20 minutes consistently. Move your body consistently for at least 20 minutes. 20 to 30 minutes when you're starting off, just move your body, right? And then sleeping is extremely important. Prepare your body to sleep. That's where your body recovers. That's when your body has the ability to reset certain things that affect your hormones, your mental health, how you recover muscle wise, right? Repair.
Yes.
So when I say prepare yourself to sleep, don't eat right before going to sleep, because what happens is your body's so focused on digesting that food where now you have a high heart rate and you can't even get to that deep sleep quick enough, right? So try to make sure that you don't eat at least 2 hours before going to sleep. If you can do 3 hours, even better. Do other things before you go to sleep. Try to minimize any exposure to any kind of blue light. All of the different screens we have, the phone, the TV, even some of the fluorescent light bulbs, you're not supposed to have that blue light late at night. What happens is it basically stimulates your body to produce more cortisol, right? Naturally, we get blue light when the sun first comes up in the morning, right? You get that ultraviolet rays that come out, the purple blue light, right? And what that does, that basically stimulates your body to produce cortisol, which is that stress hormone to get your body going. You need that at the beginning of the day. But as the day goes through, you have to minimize blue light, because naturally we're not supposed to have that blue light exposure, right? That's how your body starts to wind down, and then it allows you to actually go into that deep sleep, and allows your mitochondria cells to do what they need to do when you sleep. That's why you see some people now wearing the yellow tinted lenses, the glasses, right? The orange ones, the red ones, which the way that works is first thing in the morning, you don't wear any glasses. Then towards the afternoon, you start wearing the yellow ones, which minimizes some of the blue light exposure. Then the orange ones start to minimize even more of the blue light exposure. And then the red ones minimizes almost 99%.
Amazing.
Right? If you're using your phone late at night, one of the things that I tell people, put on the filter. We have this filter here. You hit the phone 3 times, 1, 2, 3, and it puts a red filter, right? This filter blocks all of the blue light from the phone.
Oh,
1,
wow.
2, 3. So that when I use my phone late at night before going to sleep.
Is that an app you put on there?
No, it's actually, you do it through the settings. I'll set it up for you.
Oh, okay.
And I'll give you the link that you can share with your listeners and viewers.
Amazing.
So there's certain things that you could do to make sure you have these things in place so you can have good sleep. So nutrition, exercise, sleep, all completely free.
Yeah, and easy to do, right? I struggle with the sleep big time. And so I've been off. It's also partially like I've been, I have these crazy, like yesterday, dead sleep for 2 hours. Wife's away, daughter's away. I'm responsible for the dog, running all over. I pass out, and I wake up like 10:30, and I'm wide awake, and I'm buzzing. And I'm like, who can I call? Well, this guy's a late nighter. So I'm getting stuff done. Then about 2 a.m., I went boom, but it messed up the rest of my morning because then I was off. My sleep was off. My workout, because I'm usually at the gym at 5 o'clock.
Right.
So, but I got such a deep sleep that in those 2 hours, exactly what you're talking about. There's a doctor I was with, and he said, if you get at least an hour a day of that deep, deep, deep sleep, that's the key for the repair. And thank you for sharing that, because, the eating late at night or leaving the TV on all at night.
So let me tell you something about the sleep, man. Is the people that were onto it very early were the casinos, right? The casinos, you go in there, they got blue light hitting from everywhere, right? The slot machines, you got all the lights. The casinos knew it from back in the day. That's going to stimulate your body to produce that cortisol, that stress hormone, and it's going to keep people wired up. and then they're feeding you, right? They're feeding you food, drinks, and stuff.
Right.
You're never going to fall asleep. You're going to keep on gambling and throwing your money away to
That's
the
right.
casino.
That's right. That's the
So
whole idea.
that's really important, man. And one of the things, like when people say, like, how do we know it really works? I'm very data driven. So I wear an Oura ring. I have my Oura ring here. It's
Okay.
a little computer in the ring. And it gives me data, everything from my heart rate variability. It tells me, my stress levels. This is really good for sleep data. It tells me my REM cycle, how was my deep sleep. It actually, the next morning, gives you a score. It's called a readiness score. And it's basically a score from 0 to 100. You want to be more closer to the 100 side. And that readiness score is going to tell you how ready are you going to be for your day. How are you going to be mentally, energy-wise, etc. And it's all based off of how much good rest you got when you're sleeping. So my recommendation for anybody is try to have some kind of sleep data. Try to have some overall data if you can. There's the Whoop bands that you can have.
Yeah.
There's the Oura Ring. There's a few different, Apple Watch. They're all pretty good. They some have pros and cons versus the others. I like the Oura Ring myself.
All right, awesome. Hey, this is Eric Stoller for the Eric Stoller Show and the Man on the Mission series. Going to be right back with Sam Tejada. We're going to talk about his book and some more great stuff. Thank you very much. Hey, this is Eric Stoller for the Eric Stoller Show and the Man on a Mission series. I'm back with Sam Tejada, CEO, founder of Liquid Vita. So now I want to hear, like, we've heard the story. You know your stuff, right? There's no doubt about it, right? Because what we're really talking about is it's basic in nature with the things that we tell people to do, but they don't do it.
Right.
But you've been building a business empire, right? Piece by piece. So talk to me a little bit about like how you went from working with the doctor to now you've got a growing business. You got like 40 locations right now.
Yeah. We've sold 40, more than half are open. We open them strategically throughout different areas of the United States.
Sure. And don't you service like over 4,000 doctors?
Yeah,
right
we're
now?
on the pharmacy side. So we
Amazing.
service over 4,000 doctors nationwide that buy their IV products from us. And then we have other products that are available as well, too. And, I started all of this, Eric. I started it all with $500 in my back pocket.
Amazing.
It was something that I decided to do as a side gig on my days off from the fire department, where I told myself, I says, you know what, this IV stuff. And it was actually, when I was working with Dr. Willicks and all of his very affluent clientele, I was going to their homes and they started telling me about, these wealthy people have homes in California, Colorado. So they started telling me, it's like, when I go back to California or Colorado, I do these IV drips, and the technician who does it is an off-duty firefighter paramedic. So when I had like the fifth patient tell me that, I was like, man, let me look into this stuff. And I saw what a lot of them were doing, people that were soon to be my competitors. A lot of them are my customers now. And I saw what they were doing. I said, you know what? I can do what they're doing, but I can do it a hell of a lot better, right? Setting up the nice environment, med spa, spa type of feel, the whole 9 yards. And, I launched Liquid Vita. I actually found a doctor close to my house in Coconut Creek who had it was called East-West Physicians, where he took Eastern and Western medicine and integrated together. He had acupuncture, hydrocolonic therapy, physical therapy. He did some aesthetic stuff. He was doing HRT. And like any other doctor, typically they have one or two rooms that are just collecting dust. So I went in there and I gave him a business proposition. I said, hey, doc, you got this room back here collecting dust. How about if I put this IV therapy business, you handle, anything that deals with compliance, I'll come here on my days off from the fire department, and I'll invest my time and work with your existing client base, and I'll create a brand around it. And he's like, all right, how much do I get? I said, I'll give you 20% of whatever revenues are coming in. So for him, it was found business. He's going to take a room that's collecting dust. Now he's going to make 20% and really not do anything.
Right.
So that was the start of Liquid Vita. That became our MVP, our minimal viable product.
Okay.
And I started with $500. I took a $10,000 loan from my in-laws, and paid them back within 3 months with a couple grand on top of it. And the 10 grand, we utilized that specifically to build a brand, website, And what ended up happening, man, is I was doing no marketing back then. I was one of the first ones really getting into the mainstream IV therapy business. Yeah. And I started getting patients, contacting us and driving an hour and a half to come get these vitamin drips. And that's where I said, this is, you know what, we got something here. So this is, now
Sure.
it's go time. So after that, I came across another opportunity where a lady who had a med spa in Fort Lauderdale, she wanted to implement IV therapy. She actually came to that clinic where I was at, saw the setup I had there. She said, "Oh, I want to put this in my med spa, which is near Fort Lauderdale Beach." So I did that. The difference, though, is this lady was never around, so her med spa was empty. Had no traffic. So eventually, I told her, I says, "Hey, listen, I don't want a room. How about if I give you a room for your aesthetic stuff, and I take over the rest of the med spa?" And she agreed, right? And that was the start to the actual Liquid brick and mortar retail locations.
Wow, amazing.
So
a little bit of innovation, entrepreneurship, sweat equity.
yeah,
And I love it because that's how I've built businesses. I the same thing. I started businesses with a few dollars because it's all about taking the action,
right.
and then finding people that believe in you.
That was the big part, man. Is vision is everything. If you can deliver what your vision is to other people, where they see what your vision is and they bite on it. And what I ended up doing after the first year, it's very difficult to grow a business the way I did on a fireman's salary, right? Because I was doing this on my days off. So there's a lot of legal work that has to be done. There's a lot of marketing stuff that has to be done, accounting, medical direction, right? As you keep on growing into other locations, you got to have a doctor, supporting the process. So what I did, I pitched this to all those different people, to the doctor, to the attorneys, to the accounting, to the marketing. And what I did, I started a separate company called LQV Management that's owned by all 5 of us. And they saw my vision. They believed in it. So the first 4 to 5 years, everyone was just doing this as a side gig on their evenings, weekends, and everyone put in sweat equity for 4 to 5 years. And it developed to this multi-million-dollar company, which today, we're nationwide and helping a lot of people, man.
Amazing, amazing. And that's true. The entrepreneurial story. Talk about your story. My good friend Omar Perry, who came from Cuba, moved to Chicago, didn't speak English. He moved to Milwaukee, came here because you had one thing: you had to believe, you're hardworking, right? And you were able to. How can I say it? It's kind of I kind of see a lot of I do a lot of that too. You find people that are open to what you're talking about, like. It's not just about money. And that's what I want to share with people, too, because I always think, I have to raise the money and start my... No, you don't.
No, you don't.
You got to get it on the street and make it happen.
Yeah.
JB and I have been producing live seminars for 30 years. And the way we would start, we pick a city, like when we work for the guy, we're going here. Then I'll be like, where do you want to go? I went to Milwaukee to do a seminar. It was the only city that Brian Tracy would give me because all his promoters would say, we're not giving you anything. You can't get... And I lived in Milwaukee for 2.5 months. And we put on a seminar out at the Ramada, out at the airport. We put like 500 people. But we started it from nothing and generated several $100,000. That's what I've done my whole career.
Yeah.
We would go, what do you want to do? I don't know, let's go do a seminar. We go but that's the whole side that is an entrepreneur. And I want to talk about that for a minute with you. Because I think a lot of people, whether they want to become a franchisor of you or they become a copycatter, which, whatever. I mean, like people say, I'm going to do what you're doing. I just felt like I'm champion mindset and I own Champion Academy, but somebody had the Champion Academy. And I'm like, that's great. I don't mind. If you're going to find me, you're going to find me.
Right.
But I want you to talk about that. Like, what does it take as an entrepreneur to really succeed, in your eyes, as somebody who's really not only made it, but now your business is growing to a next level, right? To a more of a, a 9 and potentially 10-figure concern.
Yeah. So, you always hear people talk about work-life balance.
Mm-hmm.
That shit doesn't exist. As an entrepreneur, if you're going to be successful, you're in it.
Right.
You wake up, you go to sleep, focus on this business. You eat, sleep, and shit business.
That's right.
100%. For the people that says, work-life balance, taking time off, this, that. Don't get me wrong. I'm still going to enjoy my life. But everything I do, even when I'm enjoying, if I'm out for happy hour, I'm still talking about my business.
That's right. I'm
just working. You have to have true entrepreneurship. And I'm not talking about just owning a little store over here, that you're paying your bills with. I'm talking about if you want to scale, right? You have to have this fire lit inside of you. And if you got that fire.
That's right.
And if you don't have that fire, you have to find that fire within you. And if you're one of those people that are trying to find that fire and going to seminars and going here, keep on doing that.
Right.
You know, proximity is power, man. Put the right people within your circle. You know, start if they're not in your circle, go into somebody else's circle.
And that's a big thing. People, they try to be more successful and they hang out with the wrong people.
With the wrong people.
And what I've learned over time, I was with a friend the other day, great guy, but with how he is, and I'm like, hey, it's great seeing you. Nothing wrong. It's not. It's different for frequency, different vibration.
Right.
And what do they tell you that, like, what's the old Groucho Marx thing? If you're the smartest one in your group, go find yourself a new group.
The new group.
Right.
That's for sure.
Exactly. Yeah. And the same thing about income. Who are the 5 people around you to tell you what your income is?
Right.
And I totally believe that. And I really, I respect people that go out and start with nothing or an idea and a little bit. And then it's like, wow. Because that's how I met the Hewlett Packard, right? And I was years ago. I was working. I was as a waiter, making some extra. I moved to California, and he told this story. They started out in a little garage, and that's how they started Hewlett Packard, HP.
Yep. Eric, I'll tell you, man. It's my fire was in me from a very young age when I was a kid. And if you talk to any of my aunts, my uncles, they'll tell you today, it's like, oh, we knew that he was going to be successful that way. And when I say a young age, I'm talking about like since I was like 5, 6 years old, right? I was the kid up north that would go knock on the doors, go rake your leaves for money, shovel snow for money. I'd cut your grass for money. In high school, I was going to the warehouse that would sell perfumes and colognes to the dollar stores. I would go buy from those warehouses for like 50 cents. I'd have a duffel bag full of them. I'd go to the Walmart parking lot and I'd sell them one for $10, 2 for 15.
Amazing.
So I was always just hustling something. I was airbrushing T-shirts. I was making custom shoes in high school. However I can make that next buck to feed into the next bigger business model, I was doing it from a very young age. So, and people ask me, like, what has inspired? I don't know. Maybe it's that I was the youngest out of 4 and I had something to prove, maybe, or maybe I just didn't like the way that I was growing up, And what I mean by that is like, we grew up in a bit of poverty, right? My mom used to cut napkins in half to try to save money. Where I told myself, I grew up. We used to mow our own lawns. We had a push mower, right? So I didn't even have one with an engine. So doing all that stuff, washing my own cars and all that stuff, we had to do that. Those were part of our chores. And I told myself, I don't like doing it. I know how to do it and I do it very well,
right?
But I'm going to make enough money where I don't have to do it. So I don't want to mow my own lawn. I don't want to wash my car. I don't want to cut napkins in half. I don't want to live in the dark. My parents at night, you always have to have all the lights shut off because the electric bill was going to be too high. I said, you know what? I want to make enough money that I can have all my lights on at night. Now I'm a little bit different because of the blue light,
But I know what you mean because it's that frugal, but also that poverty consciousness versus flourishing. Because sometimes it's okay because they don't know how. Right. And you think about when you go from working for wages to building a business, it's a different thought process.
Right.
Because what you said, my time is worth more than doing any of those activities.
100%.
So my wife, she's like, she loves cleaning her house. I said, but babe, you do this, 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 and this. And I said, no, but even if you hire somebody, she's still cleaning. So, Dominican women, right?
Yeah.
But that's her pride, so I can't say anything. But at the same point, I really believe you said the thing early on. It's that fire in the belly. As Les Brown says, you got to be hungry. And if you're not hungry and you're going to be an entrepreneur, you're not going to be successful.
Right.
And
Agreed.
And even at 58, sitting there by my business, like things are happening, like exactly what you said. Like, why am I sleeping up and down? Because I'm working on these things because they're not done. And I can't ask JB or anybody else. It has to be, I'm the man on the mission. And if it's my mission, is as Tom Peters, wrote, he was a big management consultant for many years. He wrote, is always a monomaniac on a mission, like yourself. You got other team members, but they're following you, right?
Yeah.
And so I really appreciate that. Like, so I grew up in, Brooklyn and stuff like that, delivering newspapers and shoveling snow. And we had a house in the Poconos and they'd say, okay, how many bales of weeds can you pull out? And they'd pay us. And my buddy who is now, worked for Bloomberg as an attorney for 22 years, right? Who called him up and got an interview and got a job. This is why I'm bringing this up because like what you did is the same thing. You knocked on a guy's door and he said, sure, why not? Imagine he calls up Bloomberg and says, I'm on the radio and WINS in New York. And he says, he turns to him and says, well, I'm going to go to law school and I want to be on TV. Well, you can work TV during the day and at night. He goes, you can go to law school. And that's what he did. And for 22 years, he sat like Bloomberg and him right here from a phone call.
Wow.
So I share this with people because you never know what the next opportunity is. So I want to leave you with the last word on my podcast. Like if somebody's watching this, somebody's like either, hey, I want to change my health, or maybe they're like, they may be the right business partner for you, for your name. Maybe you're looking, I don't know if you're looking for business partners for your franchises. What do you say to somebody? Like, what do you say to somebody that's sitting there watching this saying, you know, I want to change my life and I'm listening to Sam. So Sam, give me something to, you know, take home.
So, you know, the time is now.
Yeah.
Your health is one of those things that you just wouldn't trade it for anything else. And at the end of the day, man, when it comes to your health, it's like, you know, you hear people talk about cryptocurrency and they talk about all kinds of different currencies that are out there.
Yeah.
If you treat your health as a currency, you won't trade it on the stock market. You won't do anything with it. You're going to maintain it. And everyone always tends to say, well, I'm too busy. I'm going to start tomorrow.
Yeah, right.
You know when you're not too busy at the point in time when you get sick. Because when you get sick, nothing else matters.
That's right.
So the best thing to do right now is make sure you take care of yourself now, right? And I always leave it in 3 categories: prevention, early detection, and treatment intervention. So make sure you focus on prevention, prevent yourself from getting sick. Make sure you're looking at all of your biomarkers when it comes to early detection. And then the treatment interventions. And treatment interventions doesn't mean that you're sitting and you're sick and you're sitting on a chair tied up to the IV bags and all this other stuff. Treatment intervention also includes nutrition, exercise, diet, sleep, all of that stuff. So those 3 things, man, it will change your life if you focus on them.
Absolutely. And I love you saying that. And, you know, they're easy to do and they're easy not to do. I want to thank you for coming here and doing this with me today. So honored that you came and spent the time. Learned a lot, and thank you. And so Sam Tejada, founder of Liquivita, CEO. He is a trailblazer. His company is growing. He is out there. And thank you for doing this.
Brother.
Look forward to doing some great stuff together. And
Absolutely.
you know, thank you for coming to Hollywood, man.
Yeah, man.
You're in Hollywood.
Thanks for inviting me to Hollywood. Finally.
You're welcome to our humble podcast studio. My name is Eric Stoller, and this is Sam Tejada, founder and CEO of Liquivita, and his great book, How to Win in Modern Wellness. We can get it on where, at Amazon?
Amazon.
Yeah, so it's a bestseller. Again, thank you again, Eric Stoller, for Man on a Mission, the Eric Stoller Show, and we'll be back to you with more great interviews coming up.